first up, I just finished watching a few moments ago. They were talking about a major ICE operation underway. Or rather, it's still underway, but they've had initial results in 1,500 high value target criminal aliens who are in the country. Now, remember, these aren't just people who are here illegally. These are people who are here illegally and do bad things and break the law and prey on on Americans and their fellow human beings. So these are the top priorities that exist out there for enforcement when it comes to immigration and deportation operations. They call that Operation Patriot. They had, I think, somebody from the ICE office in Boston talking about this. But this is absolutely essential. One of the things that I love about this administration is they aren't just stopping the crazy stuff that the other side, or rather refraining from doing the same crazy stuff that the Democrats were doing. Yes, that's an improvement, but they're also saying, hold on a second, that's illegal. We're not going to allow you. We're going to stop you from doing the crazy things, whether it's the transgender, men and women sports stuff, or now this sanctuary city, complete, forgetting about the rule of law stuff on immigration. And the reasons for this, or rather, we got a reminder of how important this is with this attack in Colorado that happened. Now, let me give you what the situation is. A guy went to, this was in Boulder, Colorado on Sunday. A guy yells "Free Palestine" and threw incendiary devices into this crowd in Boulder, Colorado. There was a demonstration to remember the Israeli hostages who remain in Gaza. So think about this for a moment. There's a group of people who have gotten together to just stand in solidarity with and remind the public about the fact that there are still hostages who are being held by Hamas, which I would also remind everybody, violation of the Geneva Convention. It's a war crime itself. It's a decision that they have made. These are terrorists. These are terrorists. They have hostages that are dying and that they've killed in their custody. And they have more, and they refuse to give them back because they are terrorists and they are the enemies of civilization. And do not forget that Hamas is an enemy of civilization anywhere in the world, and should be treated as such. I do not view Hamas as distinct or different from a group like Al-Qaeda. I think that they share the baseline ideology that makes them as vicious as they are, and why it is as necessary as it is to meet them on the battlefield and to destroy them. That's how I view Hamas. I don't want to sit around and talk about, oh, maybe there's some future where Hamas is not going to be so crazy. Anyway, so there's this demonstration taking place in Boulder, Colorado for Israeli hostages. And this lunatic runs up to them, and you had 8 people who were transported to the hospital. He threw incendiary devices. I assume something like a Molotov cocktail. It was some sort of incendiary device like that. And people were burned, and they had to be taken directly to the hospital as a result. The burns on their legs, badly burned on most of her. One of them appeared to be badly burned on most of her body, wrapped in a flag by a bystander. I mean, horrific. Lighting people on fire. That's what this maniac did. He lit people on fire at let's remember the hostages. Think about the psychological damage that these hostages and their families are still going through. Any day, some savage from Hamas could execute them. If it's a woman in custody, we know what they've been doing to women in custody. I mean, these people are barbarians. And there is a gathering of those who want to remind all of us of what's going on here. You know, the pro Hamas, pro Gaza, free Palestine maniacs that are out there, they hate talk of the hostages because what they really want is this pretense of they have the moral high ground. There's a genocide in Gaza. Maybe the quote unquote genocide, it is not a genocide, but maybe what they call genocide would stop if Hamas would just give back the hostages that it has and it could do so tomorrow. It could have done so at any point since it started this war. And Hamas did start this war, as we know, with October 7th. So that brings me to this individual who, it turns out, was here on a tourist visa. Fox News was the first that I saw reported this. He was authorized to stay till February 2023, stayed in the country illegally, applied for asylum, received a work permit, which was valid through March of 2025. Stayed in the country illegally. That's something that we have to remind ourselves of here. So we just suffered a terrorist attack from an illegal. That's what happened. That's not the way that here you go. Here's how Reuters covers this. I just told you what really happened. An illegal, who yelled "Free Palestine" and lit people on fire, engaged in a anti-Semitic terrorist attack on U.S. soil. And he was only here because he had evaded our immigration laws. You know, Trump has been talking about this all along. Yet another moment where you say, oh, wow, Trump is right. That we have risks. We have risks to our security that come from these individuals, who enter illegally or stay illegally after legal entry, which is the case here, and that this is unacceptable. And one of the reasons they're such a risk, it's not just that they break the law. We don't know who they are. They are effectively off radar once they stay beyond their allowed time or once they enter illegally. We don't know what they're up to. We don't know what they're doing. And now you have people who had to be rushed to the hospital after being lit on fire at a peaceful vigil for hostages because some illegal alien maniac was in the country. Suspect named as Mohammed Soliman. Yeah, that's the suspect's name. So 8 people injured in this, an illegal engaged in a terrorist attack, a reminder of why it is so important and so urgent to get criminal illegals out of this country as quickly as possible. Because we've allowed a lot of maniacs like this one to come into the country. And you could say, oh, well, what they always do is they try to get you to focus on the people that just want a better life for themselves. And well, the problem is we can't just allow people who want a better life for themselves to come into the country at will, because then this country would cease to exist. We can't handle it. It wouldn't be America anymore. It would be something else. And Democrats want to turn it into that as quickly as they can. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why. We can get into the psychology behind that. But in the meantime, we are here saying, and the Trump administration is saying, enough. 8 people lit on fire at a protest by this maniac. It's appalling. And it shows you how critical it is that Trump's work and the administration's work continues on this. And then you have the true imbeciles over at places like CNN, where I used to be a terrorism analyst, and I was always right. You know what my record was for saying this is jihadist terrorism, and it turned out to be jihadist terrorism? 100%. In fact, they had people that they brought on TV. This is a true story. They brought me on TV once at CNN to analyze terror attack, because I had worked at a little place called the CIA Counterterrorism Center. And they actually brought on some other expert to disagree with me. I don't remember, some academic or something. And it came out while we were on the air. This is true. It came out while we were on the air that, actually there was like a jihad manifesto. It was a jihad, the whole thing. But they don't care. The point is, they want to feel good about themselves for thinking, this isn't a Muslim jihadist thing. This is some other thing. I don't want to jump to conclusions. We may never know the motive. Here's former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe and Harvard professor Juliette Kayyem. She was the one I was talking about last week. I'll just tell you that. She's a true imbecile. Teaches at Harvard, imbecile. Here they are. This is them on the CNN panel after this attack. Play 7.
It's hard to imagine that the FBI has more or better information at this point to kind of rush out with the conclusion within like 10 minutes after we all started hearing about this, that it's a targeted act of terror. It may very well be, but most of the time you try to be very careful about attaching that label to an attack until you have solid evidence that indicates a motive that would qualify as terrorism, like an act intended to intimidate a population or to change the direction of government.
It's not good for the community. It's not good for the potentially targeted community. It makes law enforcement look disorganized, and it makes the FBI look so juvenile. Like, why are you getting ahead of the police chief?
A Muslim guy who's an illegal alien threw a Molotov cocktail at a bunch of Jews at a Free the Hostages protest, and he yelled, "Free Palestine." I think we know what's going on here, right? I think we all understand why this guy did what he did. And yet they go on CNN and they say this because part of the mandate of the left, part of the mandate of the Democrat Party these days is to continue trying to help these Democrats live in an alternate universe because they're so wrong on so many things, and it's becoming more and more apparent with every day. And the Trump administration is exposing the truth and taking action in ways that it becomes unavoidable for them to have to start to look at this. So this is like their fantasy escapism of, well, we may never really know. Gee, kind of like how I knew and Clay knew that Biden had dementia, kind of like how we knew that the trans manifesto was going to talk about how the trans terrorist in Nashville was a maniac who hated Christians and conservatives and it was terrorism. And they're like, we don't know. We have to wait for of course we know. Of course we know. But it is better in the Democrat mind to be told something so stupid, such as we can't know, the real motive, or we don't know the Free Palestine guy who was throwing the incendiary devices at the Jews, yelling Free Palestine. We don't know what's going on there. They would rather be told that than you are on the side of evil and you've been wrong on everything. That's really what's going on here. They'd rather be talked to like complete idiots than have to face the reality of you're on the wrong side. You're on the Hamas side. You're on the jihad side. You're on the enemies of civilization team, libs. Wise up. They don't want to hear that.